on the Raritan with your hosts. Right on the Raritan, your hosts Justin and Ted. I know we've had to skip a little bit over a week and a half now. I was on vacation down in Destin watching the Minnesota game, so we do apologize for the delay. And I know our friend Justin here has been very busy as well. But hey, it's good to be back. It's good to be back.
It's has to be back. Feel refreshed now.
I know we're ready to dive back in. We got a couple things we want to talk about real quick prior to us starting to break down real briefly the Minnesota game, and then we'll probably do more of an in-depth Washington review. But big news from Kelly Zinn with the release of the RNIL collective. I don't know if you watched Greg Schiano's presser today. He got a little spicy. It wasn't today. It was either today or yesterday. He got a little spicy with a couple of the reporters asking about the NIL.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. Besides, previously like your guys like Aaron Lewis, Benungai, like really like Fadakasi, they were really able to market themselves well.
Mm-hmm.
The NIL, I've been like out of it. Reba Beam, the podcast. I definitely like the innovation, the business strategy and everything a lot of the players have been able to do. But I just haven't been like as versed in it as I would like to.
Yeah, from what I understand it is she's really trying to take a focus on like it's more like corporate based. So basically, there's going to be like I don't know. From what I understand it, it's basically going to do a lot of trying to get a lot of investors from like northern New Jersey, and then dipping into New York City, which obviously makes sense because that's the big reason why one of the big reasons why we ended up joining the Big Ten is to have access to that tri-state northern New Jersey New York market. Um, but hey, it's exciting too. I mean, she's only been there what 2 months, month and a half, 2 months, maybe almost three. But the fact that they already have a new collective put together, and they think they had made mention about hiring, I think 3 or 4 new um, full-time staffers. So hopefully we can get some of that money start flowing into the program to elicit some change. But uh, other big news: Penn State fires Franklin.
Yeah, are you shocked by that call? Or I mean, his record's great. People, when it comes out to
So
big
like I
games,
think yeah, I think in episode 1 or 2 I talked about growing up in South Jersey and how everybody was like always Penn State. So one of my good buddies, he's like a I wouldn't call him a diehard Penn State fan because he like doesn't even watch some of the games because he's not like psychopaths like us. But um, I could totally see their fan base being a part of that whole um, just crazy calling for the witch hunt especially after the two bad L's to UCLA and then Northwestern. Um, but it's crazy to think. I read somewhere or I heard in one of the other podcasts that he went from being ranked number 2 in the country to being unranked and fired in 3 weeks,
yeah,
which is nuts.
I was looking at some of the potential candidates they might get too. So
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of. I haven't talked to. I've listened to a lot of like the college sports, like college football, like related like media stuff, and like it's kind of like a mixed bag. Like yes, on one hand, they always bring up the fact that he has yet to win like a big game at Penn State. And I mean, I think it kind of was just the tide had risen too high, especially with their preseason, accolades coming into this year. Like on paper, they were supposed to be dark horses to challenge Ohio State for the Big Ten tournament, if not the championship. Um, with Alar coming back, unfortunately his season's over. He had a pretty nasty leg injury. their running back duo and Singleton and Katron Allen. Their offensive line was really good. I mean, their defense was nothing to scoff at. So maybe Rutgers can go ahead and scoop up some of those one-time Rutgers prospects that shunned us to go to Penn State, and they can come crawling back to our come crawling back onto the banks.
Maybe. What about the transfer portal will bring too?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it really depends on who they end up hiring as their coach. Um, I know Matt Rule is a big name on that list, considering he's from that area. He went there, played there. I think he even coached there for a little bit as like a GA or assistant or something. But but then on the flip side of that too, it's like, you look at James Franklin and he took over a program that was in the gutter because that was coming like pretty fresh off of a ton of sanctions and a big controversy. Um, because he's been there for a while. But
You think James Franklin ends up in SEC, Big Ten, Big 12?
I had heard someone say that it would be interesting if he showed up at Virginia Tech. Um, but I mean, Penn State owes him 50 mil, so I think it would be pretty easy. Hey, like you can come play for another big time Power Five school. Um, you're already getting paid a ton of money. Like we'll pay you a smaller contract, and then if you can show like incremental improvement, then once your buyout's complete, then we can sign you onto a deal. So I don't know. Um, I know I forgot to skip this. My notes are kind of out of order, but talking about the NIL, do you foresee? I was just thinking about this randomly the other day. Do you foresee with the onset of the NIL, is that going to alter the draft eligibility rule for college players? Because I could easily see that somehow becoming like the next big hot ticket item for like collegiate athletes is, hey, we're already getting paid money. Why do we have to wait to go and get drafted till our junior year?
Well, yeah. Well, think about you. If you're a player that maybe you think you could get drafted. What if you're just like a middle of the line player, but you're such a great marketer, business ideas? You would just leave college athletics.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you have your middle of the road guy who's collecting stacks from NIL. I mean, he's probably not going to leave for the draft. I'm just saying in general, like for example, like a Jeremiah Smith last year was a stud. Who's to say in the future, like there's some sort of unfortunate circumstance, or someone gets hurt that could have been, or who was the linebacker from Notre Dame a couple of years ago who was like a lock um as like a first round draft pick, and I think he tore his ACL in like the bowl game. But who's to say that in the next couple of years the collective, whatever the players organization collective isn't going to come out and say like, why are we waiting for 3 years to go to the pro? Like, why can't we go after two? You know,
Isn't there too? You kind of can like No Marino is able to, right? Like he went after his sophomore year. There is a weird rule.
maybe I think maybe there might be some sort of loophole if you like declare. You know how um Wadi Collier, he's the one that reclassified, so he's actually at Rutgers right now, where I believe he should hypothetically still be in high school. So I think that might be the loophole, but I don't really know for sure. I just thought it was something interesting to think about because I haven't heard anybody else talk about it, and if they have, then I guess I haven't found out about it. But if not, then hey, you heard it here on Riot on the Raritan first. So we're out here groundbreaking new concepts. But
I wonder too with NIL deals. Like say if you enter the transfer portal, or say you come from JUCO, like you're that skilled, and then you go to like a
mhm.
4-year university. If there's any business loopholes as far as like NILs, like if I did
I
business
mean,
in region with a certain company, a certain group, like I have a contract or a binding agreement, and now you
mhm.
for another school. Like,
Yeah.
could you also see students getting themselves in potentially, you know, binding contracts and legal suits that they might not be the most familiar and prudent on, where they
I
may
mean, I feel like a
get
perfect example of
exposed?
that would potentially be, the Diego Pavia or the Jet Elad. They went to court to fight the eligibility. I just feel like there's still so much that needs to get. I guess I feel like regulated is kind of a restrictive term, but the NIL and the transfer portal right now is just the absolute wild west. It must be an absolute nightmare being on a coaching staff, regardless of where you are.
Do you
You know,
imagine that if you're a coach, then you have to worry about your players' NILs? Like saying, oh, you know, this player, you know, has a binding contract. They have to, fulfill these requirements, or maybe a certain company, say our donors, right? So say Rutgers,
hmm
actually, there's one Facebook group before, I forget who it was. They were talking about the big five, like richest, Rutgers alumni, or they would expect they could potentially, donate to the program. Do you know what I mean? Too, as an alumni, we say NILs. If you were to give to certain players in the program, or to specific players NILs, are you then expecting them to, fulfill their tenure with the program?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I feel like there has to be some sort of contractual obligation in the future. I don't know what it looks like now, but it was like that kid from Florida. He was like a 5-star quarterback, and remember Florida had promised him like something ridiculous, like $14 million, and then he showed up in Gainesville, and they only gave him like $5 million, and then he just up and left and transferred like before the season even started, which is insane to me. I'm like, this is crazy, but
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a coach managing players, say maybe contracts or deals they have, where they're generating money for themselves, which is great. At the same
well,
time,
half these
some of
half
these
these kids
players might
have.
be 18, 17, 19,
Mhm.
20, 21 years old. And, not for nothing, depending on what school program you go to, a lot of these kids don't always have money, come from money. Especially, if you're not going to a program like Notre Dame, where there's, you know, maybe more lucrative opportunities and monetary funds. And, there's additional funds that can be leveraged and allocated towards you. A program like Rutgers, you might not be as available to every single player.
I mean, yeah, well, you have to think about it too. A lot of these kids are coming into college with pretty much either agents, straight up agents, or like some sort of agency that's representing them. I mean, it's nuts. I was reading about I think it's like the number 2 or 3 running back out of Pennsylvania. I think he goes to some high school in Pittsburgh. He was like originally committed to Penn State, and then they started losing these games, and then like his agency released a statement. I'm like, this kid isn't even in college yet, and he's got an agency.
Which is scary if you think about it too, because you're trusting, agencies already to represent you. They have, you think they have your best interest at heart,
hmm
but they also have
I
theirs,
mean,
you know.
and like Ace Bailey already cut ties with his agency. You know what I mean? Like, so, and now we already knew we already heard about whatever that fiasco was. Him going to Utah and then like not showing up or pretending that he wasn't going to show up. Whatever that fiasco was, but um, who knows, man? But hey, hoops, not far off. Not far off. We got
November
about
5th.
maybe 30, probably about 30 days. 30 days, we'll give or take, until the hoops opener. I know they had a scrimmage recently. I forget who they played. But from what I've heard in the grapevine is that not injuries, the offense was looking a little bit lackluster. So I think what do we want to do? We should probably we'll do like 2 weeks from now. We'll do a in-depth hoops discussion.
And
I
definitely
think in the middle of the football season, I'm guilty of not not really following the basketball team as in depth as I should have. So
Sam,
I'll have to
you
play
touch on
some catch up.
wrestling too.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks on volleyball, the sellout crowd. So
Lacrosse team. We got a whole bunch of stuff coming down the pike here soon. But I mean, yeah, let's. I guess we just briefly touch up on what went down in Minnesota. I mean, I was down in Destin, and I took my wife and I took the dogs to this local bar that had. I called ahead and I was like, "Hey, do you have you guys going to be showing the Rutgers game?" And they're like, "Yeah, come on down." So we went and sat on the patio and watched the game. And I don't know, man. I feel like after watching pretty much every game aside from the Norfolk State game, maybe against Ohio too. It just seems like the offense comes out firing on all cylinders for the first quarter, and then it almost is, to use a really crappy analogy, it's like you're grilling your food and the propane runs out,
yeah,
and then you got to run to the store to go get more propane so you can finish your food, and then you're just pissed because you got to run out to the store. That's just, and I just feel like the Minnesota game. It was just. I feel like it's almost, we're living in like deja vu or Groundhog's Day or any of those movies. What's the one with Tom Cruise? He fights the aliens. He every time he dies, he wakes back up and it's like the same day. The Edge of Tomorrow. That's what it's
yeah,
called. I just feel like it's one of those movies, man. It's like every week I'm just sitting there watching the game. A lot of times I'll be watching it while I'm at work in my office, but and it just comes out. They come out hot, but fool me once, shame on me, right? Fool me twice, like, or however that saying goes. And it's just, at this point in time, this deep into the season, like especially with watching the Minnesota game, and we'll talk about Washington here, so I won't get ahead of myself. But it's just we've seen this pattern of behavior, I guess we can call it, or pattern of game trends where we start out hot and then we do nothing for the rest of the 75% of the game, and I just kind of just drives you crazy, honestly.
yeah. I think Iowa and Minnesota sting a little bit more. I mean, Washington was tough, and but the first half too. Just thinking we're in this, you can win this game, and it's like you just came out flat.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we talked about it the last time we were on about, like, at least I said it. It's just, I feel like we're running the same like 7 plays, and that one interception that Ethan had against Minnesota that honestly really altered the course of that game. It wasn't even a bad throw. It was just that defender clearly paid attention in the defensive meetings and jumped the route, because I feel like we run the same damn plays all the time. It's either the deep out routes to Strong or Duff, um, the runs up the middle with Raymond, which obviously you need to establish the run game, so I can't really fault that too much. But we run the same stupid, like, 1 yard down the field triple option pass to the tight end, and then at the last second, and then this is obviously not necessarily all his fault, but Ethan realizes that he doesn't have anywhere to go with the ball, so he just dishes it to Fletcher or Weber, and they just get crushed for like a 2 yard reception. Not to mention that DT Sheffield is just kind of, I don't know, he's kind of seemed invisible for the Minnesota game. Um, I'd have to look up his stats for Minnesota. I don't remember. It was obviously 2 weeks ago, but um, actually, it was more than that because there was the bye week, so it was 3 weeks ago. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. The Minnesota game was I don't know. That was just one that was tough to watch, man. As a Rutgers fan, it was just, you're sitting there and you're just like, we really, really need this game. And like we've talked about before, it just seems that for whatever reason. We need a play, can't get a play. We need a game, can't get a game. And now we're diving into a back half stretch of our schedule, which is wildly unforgiving. So,
Yeah, especially losing to PJ Fleck in a long time. We're gonna say
mhm,
rivalry, but you know, someone who came under Shiano's coaching tree for a while with Rutgers. You know,
exactly.
knows Shiano's style,
Um,
knows the coaching staff probably very well. Knew Aiken very well. Aiken
mhm.
well against them last year at home. They got the win over Minnesota, which I thought was kind of Rutgers' best win of the season last year.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I'm pretty sure we had text about it in the Minnesota game. The Minnesota game, it was like a 3-play, just absolute momentum change. It was I think it was like it was like the interception. Then they scored, and then we went 3 and out, and then they threw like an 80-yard pass. And I'd be a liar if at that moment I was kind of just like, man, we're probably gonna lose this game.
Yeah, no, and we see that we're seeing that more this year now. Like you just feel the momentum just deflate right before
Yep.
at halftime. Every time they block a kick, every time we screw up on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our defense is non-existent to say the least. And the first half, I even thought like the D line was showing up, playing well. People are getting involved, and then people are putting up career numbers against us week after week.
I mean, speaking of career numbers, I mean, we'll jump right into the more recent game and on our memories, and it's the Washington game, man. Like they put up almost 3/4 of 1,000 yards in that game. Their quarterback was putting up, NCAA video game type numbers that you would see. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? I mean, and it's not like we didn't score at all, but I mean, excuse me, we didn't move the ball at all. That's actually my point, is that we had pretty much, we'll just call it 500 yards, even though it was just shy. We had 500 yards of total offense, and we only scored 19 points. I mean, I don't know how that happens.
Yeah. Well, actually, the one player I really was surprised with this week was I don't know if you want to go into our specific players collectively, was Antoine Raymond.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have a terrible game. I mean, he had like I think 80 something yards of rushing, and he had a bunch of catches out of the backfield. Um, but
And
that's
run
just
down
another
the
perfect.
field.
Yeah, that perfect example. He had the first game. What is it? The first drive, I think it was the first drive. He had the huge run, which led to the KJ touchdown. And from that point moving forward, it just seemed kind of like he had to just scrap for every centimeter. But
Seeing his receiving ability even down the field was, him making tackles, breaking yards after,
mhm.
open field.
You know what? I keep hearing this on a lot of the Rutgers threads, and this might catch me a lot of hate for saying this, but it just gets kind of exhausting when we just keep talking about how, like, oh, we really miss this player, a la Kyle. Oh man, we really could use, Holland Pierce here. It's like at what point in time can we just stop talking about how great those guys were? Because they're in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it doesn't do us any justice, I think, to sit here and be like, "Oh man, Antoine Raymond's like, man, he's not Kyle Monunga." It's like, of course he's not. He's a sophomore. Like what are we actually really talking about here? He hasn't turned the ball over. I don't think at all this season. He breaks tackles. He had 65 yards against Minnesota. I think it was something insane. He had a ton of yards. Like, what more do we want from this kid to continue to talk about oh well, we really miss Kyle. He picks up blocks off the blitz very well. Like, what more do we want from this guy? I don't know. I feel like it's very disingenuous as Rutgers fans. Like, we always keep talking about like things from last year. Oh, we really missed this. It's like, I guess for me, it's more so. At what point in time can we start trying to fix like where we're at? You know what I mean?
I agree with that with most things. However, I did like seeing the Monongai night football thread,
I
especially
mean,
yesterday. And
yes.
shout
Come
out to
on.
Kyle for getting the nice play.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's yes, I get that, but I'm talking more so just like program oriented. I've heard it on at least like 2 or 3 other threads that I read up on, and a lot of the fans are just like, "Oh man, we really just really we really it's obvious that we miss X player, this Y player." And I'm like, "Yeah, of course, because they're in the fucking NFL." Like,
Honestly, if there's
of
anyone we're
course you're
missing
gonna
right now,
miss.
it's our
Yeah, like
defense. It's
of
Kyle
course you're gonna
Hamilton. It's
miss
Longer
somebody
Beam.
that's yeah, like
It's
of course you're
Powell.
gonna miss dudes that are in the league. Like that. Like, what are we actually speaking on here? And it's just like I don't know. I guess it leads into my next point. I guess before we can start diving into our position group analysis is um, I've heard a lot of rumblings about like if we lose this week or the week after, at what point in time should we start asking the questions about if we should start letting Charest get some minutes and some snaps. But honestly, I think that's part of the reason why Shiano's done a great job so far in terms of like program loyalty and roster turnover. We're going to lose dudes here and there. That's at this point in day and age with the NIL and the transfer portal, it's inevitable. But I feel like that's what Shiano does right is that you know people that have done right by the program, he sticks by them. So I don't foresee Ethan getting sat, but I will say this: I would love to start seeing other players that are on the two deep elsewhere on the field, especially at safety, especially at linebacker, and maybe even at corner. Like I mean, we already know that the product that's excuse me that's on the field is struggling, and I mean I know those dudes are playing their heart out, but I mean at some point in time we need to start thinking about next season. Chibome, he's done great things for the program, and we'll miss him. But I mean, he's not going to be here next season. Jet Elad will not be here next season. Hopefully, maybe DK Gilly will be healthy if he stays. He can start taking that spot. I know that the coaching staff was really high on him before he unfortunately had his injury um, during spring practice or fall camp. It was one of those two. I don't remember which one it was. Um, we have a lot of linebackers. I mean, that are some of our more recent, like higher echelon recruits. Um, like a Sam Robinson, who's big enough to play in the Big Ten. I mean, at this point in time, I just don't really see the merit in not even just giving them some burn. I'm not sitting here saying they have to start. I'm not telling you to bench seniors, but I feel like at some point in time, we've got to try something different.
Yeah, I feel like they're more on defense. I think offense, I'd rather see Ethan rock out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with
You
that
know,
completely. I mean, I don't want Serace to come in against. I mean, who would want? Oh yeah, we're not going to have Ethan play against Ohio State. We're going to start Serace for that game. No, that would be stupid. It's like, hey, let's go ahead and kill our quarterback's confidence playing against arguably, if not the number one defense in the country. In what I mean, I hate to say it, but like in kind of sort of what's kind of going to be a meaningless game at this rate in time. Away as well in the horseshoe.
yeah, I mean, think about this game coming up. Home night game, 6:30 versus Oregon. I think we could put points up against the board on Oregon, but it's gonna be tough. It's always a little better when it's closer at home.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of dudes that are playing special teams for us that are on the two deep, And we just gotta try something different. Like, you know what? If we go out and the defense is terrible, but I see different players on the field, like I would be less mad. That's full transparency. If we go out next game and we're getting the doors blown off us by Oregon, and we are starting to see not just because it's a blowout, but like from the onset of the game, like in certain packages, maybe we don't see DJ Jabome in third down in a passing situation because I mean, God bless his soul, he's just not fast enough to cover some of these super fast guys. Does he do a great job taking on linemen and stuffing the gap? Of course, that's what his strengths are. But put him out in space, then he kind of gets exposed. And I mean, that's no knock on him. It's just the honest truth. So I mean, maybe we have somebody that's a little bit better in space. Abram Wright. I mean, I'm happy that he's healthy enough to be playing, but I kind of feel like is he? Do we have to have him playing right now? Like, can we provide this young man, a little bit more time to, you know, get his legs under him? We're just throwing him out there. I mean, injuries is another problem this season, not as disastrous as it was last season, but I feel like there's definitely guys on the depth chart that are big enough and athletic enough to step in. And even if they don't play great football, guess what? They are learning. They are getting adjusted to the game. You know, I feel like honestly, if we lose one of the three games that we need to win to go to a bowl game, that has to happen, or I'm gonna be upset. Like honestly, as a fan, like it just doesn't make sense.
And I'm seeing the same thing. It's like almost every week. It's like everyone's moving the ball so much on us that you're just seeing the same thing. Stats wise, guys are getting 4 tackles, but it was solo, total, everything from the deep
Hmm.
linebackers. I mean, George Thompson, stepped up this week, so he got in there a little bit more. Bradley Weaver was in there a little bit more, and in the first half,
But I think our leading tacklers are our safeties. Like that's
yeah,
that's
Jet
not a
Eli had a
that's
week after week.
not
Taj Sanders, Cam Newton.
not a good sign. Not a good sign when your safeties are the leading tacklers of the team because that means that the ball has made it past seven other people to get to you.
Yeah, and this thing is like there's things I really like about Jimmy. There's also other things I feel like it's kind of reminds me of the end of the hill, like Roy Williams. Like, yeah, he's making plays, sticking people, but what does it mean when we're getting burned all the time?
Yeah, because his big
Us.
hits come at the end of like a 35-yard gain. So it's kind of just, oh, sick, like big hit, but they just gained 27 yards, you know? So, I mean, I just don't know. I don't really know what to say at this point in time. Like, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and lie. Like, I knew this season was going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. But I also didn't go into the season thinking that a bowl game would be unattainable. And yet here we are, where we're pretty much right on the cusp of that being the honest truth. Um, and it just goes to show you, like everything that we've been saying, we can't get the games that we needed. Shiano, I know people hate on his scheduling. I honestly don't think it's that terrible. I mean, he sets us up for success. We play a couple of outer conference, I mean, not cupcake teams, but warm up games that we should win, that we did. And then that pretty much provides you some breathing room once you hit the Big Ten conference because, granted, we're not playing Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, Illinois every single dang season, or usually Wisconsin, like we were when they were still a division breakup. But we caught the short end of the stick this time around, and we set ourselves up for success by winning those first three games, and then we just dropped the next three Big Ten games in a row, especially coming off the bye. Like we're not really doing ourselves any favors here.
No, not at all.
And it would be different if this was like 2 years ago. Purdue was nothing. Maryland, meh. But like, yeah, they did lose um, this last week to Nebraska. But like, Malik Washington is another mobile quarterback, and these dudes are out here putting up video game numbers on our team. And but it's just I don't know. As a fan, it just gets tough because you're like you want your team to be successful not only in this season, but we also I mean, if you know anything about football, you know that the way that this season turns out is going to have some kind of contributing factor to what next season may or may not be like. And
Yeah,
it comes down to the recruiting, who's going to want to come to the team. Like what if we don't win a game for the rest of the season? Like that's a frightening realism.
yeah, and that's I mean, you think about our talent that we have now. Is there a chance with that? We have no one coming in our defense. You get guys like Raymond, you get guys like Duff, that might sit here and be like, I could be playing anywhere. That's really where I want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
we'll talk about that towards the after our position group breakdown, with who we think will stay and return next season. Um, but it's just, I it's just like, do I think that like within the immediate future that, we're going to be challenging someone for the Big Ten title? No, I don't think so. That's not necessarily a realistic expectation unless something miraculous happens. But I don't think it's that far fetched to say maybe 10 years from now, 7 years from now, that we'd be significantly better than we are now. I don't think that that's unfair.
like a top six Big Ten team consistently, like
Yeah.
a top, top 5 to 8, every year.
Yeah. Maybe sneak some of that Shiano magic and, beat a ranked team, like get an upset, beat a Penn State when they're on top, beat an Ohio State when they're on top, maybe challenge in Oregon. Um, but I have a hard I have a hard time believing that that's going to be that's not not going to get put on pause because you know we could have a ton of money, but who's going to want to come play for a 4-8 team, a 3-9 team? Now that would be the painful piece. It actually hurts me just thinking about it. Us going from you know, going to the bowl game last year, even though it was, objectively kind of, I wouldn't say a disappointing season because it's by no fault of the players, with all the injuries and stuff that had been going on. But I mean, objectively, it was kind of a tough season. We were supposed to have played a lot better. Um, and then going from 6-6 to 3-9, 3-9, that's a tough look.
Yeah. Honestly, you know what? The one thing Greg said like a year or two ago, which always sticks to me, like, this is a program where you're gonna come, you're gonna graduate through this program, you're gonna get a good,
Hmm.
and you're gonna play in the NFL. You got an opportunity to play in the NFL. And you
Yeah.
know what? As a realistic, crazy it sounds, it's like we almost depend in a way on on our nights in the NFL. Your Pacheco's, you can say Menunga, but even your careersmen like the McCourys, and look what they were able to do. And granted, that's a lot of that Belichick mastermind, that
Hmm.
Patriots, not going to be a superstar, necessarily. And this is a team dynasty we build around. And you know what? I think there is something there. We got homecoming this weekend, night game. I think it's a good for a fan experience. It's good for students, too. To say, I could stay at Rutgers, and I can watch big time football now too. But trying to say it wasn't like that when we were there. Big East I always thought was competitive and exciting. Big
Hmm.
for animal too for people as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can dive into our position group breakdown.